Oh, you ready?
Oh, yes.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
oh.
Okay, I hit the camera. I'm recording.
I wanted to address several comments that were made by people I know concerning this photograph here. This is supposed to be Kojo
Yes.
arriving at Cancun on the beach with the blue water and so forth and so on.
Oh, it was Cancun. It was Mexico Beach.
Mexico, Cancun, Mexico.
Okay.
And I don't want to call it a complaint, but the observation that several people have made is that couldn't be Kojo because it looks like me. And I'm saying to the person who's making this comment, there might be a resemblance, but the resemblance is purely intentional.
There you go.
So that takes care of that.
Yes. Go right ahead.
We're on chapter 28 of The Snake, 2020. The Snake 2020.
The Snake 2020. All right. Gotcha. Got it.
Passport photo by Salena-Hawkins.
There's Odie. One more time. There you go. Gotcha. See ya. All right. Let's do it.
Okay, here we are, chapter 28. And Kojo and Akosua have returned to L.A. and they are about to get their apples together in one basket. They're going around doing things to try to set up a movie production company, and they're calling our production company, and they're going to be doing things with people who are incredibly talented, who have hated working for Hollywood, but they had no choice because there was no our production company to work for at that time.
Yes.
But now Kojo is giving them one.
Yes.
And it is called our production company. Like I said, they've made it back to LA. Incidentally, in the previous blurb that's now on Facebook, I've explained that Kojo was riding through the Sonoran Desert, hopped out to do what you have to do after you've been riding too long in a car, drinking beer, and winds up having a meeting with Asiafo, the wizard. And the reason I continue to call him a wizard is because he's doing wizardous things, like appearing in the Sonoran Desert, straight out of the northern jungles of Ghana. It's absurd that there would be monuments to Lassie, the Wonder Dog, and statues erected for the commemoration of every racist who ever showed his face, but not one serious monument to our people. Granddad, do you think a film could be a monument? Let's take a look at it. Kojo rewound the 3 tapes, drained the dregs of his orange juice, and took a shower. A balmy Los Angeles basin night, the distant plinking of a stringed instrument. The Armenians must be doing a little do tonight. He's living in a very multiracial neighborhood. Armenians over here, Italian deli over there, Chinese Thais, Cambodians, blacks, whoever. He slipped into pajama bottoms. Akosua always wore the tops. And stretched out on his bed, a full moon glaring through his bedroom window, locked his hands behind his head and mentally replayed the 3 videotapes and the one his grandfather played on his mind. That was some heavy dripping drama you dunked us in, old dude. Heavy. Soul reservoirs of spiritual energy, Billie Holiday. The tape had been an hour of Billie Holiday's life, the focus on her drug addiction. But even with the drugs, she still had more of something than all of her peers and most of the people who call themselves singers today. And it wasn't just the voice, there was something else in the voice. A soundtrack of her experiences in life, the soundtrack for the experience that many of our people have had. She was articulating something in a way that expressed what we feel. Granddad was right. A lot of our people don't seem to want to feel that deeply anymore. And they had the nerve to have that little slender sister play Billie Holiday and Lady Sings the Blues. Seemed that she would have been embarrassed to try to play Billie. Oh well. And what made Richard Pryor during his solid days so funny? Kojo had sprawled in his chair laughing aloud, alone at Richard Pryor live. It wasn't funny, ha-ha. It was more like a subterranean feather tickling a black nerve. Yeah, the white people laughed too, but they were laughing at the brother. We were laughing with him. Mom's Mabley had that going for it too, a direct pipeline into the African-American funny bone. Red Fox in Vegas. The third tape made him laugh at the way Fox said things. The cool assumption he made while telling his jokes that the in people were definitely in. And he went out doing Sanford and Son. Will the real Red Fox please ride from the sitcom? The phone buzzing startled him. 12:45 p.m. Akosua. Good evening. Yes, good evening, Kojo. This is Juna. And I've just talked to Akosua, and I'm very excited about the project. It sounds just like sort of thing I could drown myself in. Well, please don't do that. But I'm really glad you feel good about things. Incidentally, I want to talk with you about a musical group I saw in Copenhagen, Denmark recently. The One Earth Music Group. Don Cherry II, Nana Mayuto, Chatua Lal II, Otis Blackwell, and Sister Kanda. Kojo almost dropped the phone. You've heard of these people? Kojo, we all know each other. The Earth is a small village. Remember that. Well, that's enough of that. I have to go feed my cat. Bye. Wow. He placed himself back in position on the bed, trying to recapture the mood that was gone. Oh, well, what the hell? It was good while it lasted. Damn, I wanted to talk with this mad musician about the musical group, about using some of what they're about. Guess I'll have to pass the buck to my baby. Kojo and Akosua strolled through her house, checking out the renovations. It's amazing what these guys can do. I thought it was amazing too until I really looked at the materials inside of these houses. This wall was nothing but heavy cardboard. What do you call it? Plasterboard or something. They slugged through that in an hour. The extra time they spent comes from my absolute insistence that they do things right. Fortunately, I have a conscientious guy who seems to be paying attention. Looked like I'll be able to come home soon. Looked like you'll be coming home on Monday. That soon, huh? It better be, else I'm going to pick up a hammer and start nailing some nails myself. Come on, let's go out back. I got a couple of chairs out. Kojo followed her out, taking in the huge space that had been hollowed out of the rear of the house. We can use this as a joint space, joint workspace, or put a couple of dividers up, and I've designed the back porch area as your private space. I use your office as the model. And of course, the bedroom has been pretty much left the way it was, except for the bathroom. Kojo smiled down into the sunken tub that was large enough for two people. I just don't feel I can kick back in the shower the way you can do it in a tub, don't you agree? A hazy September afternoon in Echo Park. Akosua chilled a bottle of Blanc de Blancs for them to sip on as they worked on my grandfather's eyes. Kojo took note of the serious note that dropped into Akosua's attitude the minute they settled in. After an hour of rehashing the images, the transitions, the suggestions for musical walls to surround the ideas, Juna called me last night, told me she had spoken to She's under control. The details of what they thought was going to make the film a classical work, Akosua took them into part 2. I listened to your grandfather very, very carefully the other night. An hour and a half later, the blanc sipped out. They leaned back in their chairs, drained. Akosua, I think we got something here. It goes beyond screenplay. Remember, that's what you kept reminding me. Let's make it more than a screenplay. Let's make it an experience. Do you think we've been hard enough on ourselves? Do you think? Kojo, I think we put together a hell of a piece and it'll be validated on Sunday. I'm not going to give them the full thing. I'm simply going to pitch the major idea of the thing at them and pray for the best. I've been working on a speech. You've been what? Writing a speech. Kojo, please take some advice from your better half. I can say that now. Don't write a speech. Give a talk, pitch an idea, say some words, but don't give a speech. What we have demands something fresh, original, straight from the heart. Remember, these are people who deal with canned laughter and over-rehearsed politicians all the time. Of course, come over here and let me molest you. You don't have to do that out here, do you? We could go inside and take a hot bath. You're wicked. I know. Questions. Do we have any strangers in the house? Anybody who doesn't know everybody else? Good. That'll save us the time it would take for introductions. However, there is one person I'd like to introduce you to. Her name is Akosua Ferguson Brown, my wife. A few people look stunned and then to begin to applaud. I thank you. We thank you for your applause of approval. Now, let's get to the business at hand. They had decided to get right down to business to accustom the people who are going to be involved to punctuality. I have these meetings where people take 45 minutes to get into what it's about. Kojo looks around the room, wall-to-wall talent. Thelma Nagata, D.J. Ross, Phillip Charles, Sid Burns, Ed Burns, Mac Weaver, Jackie F. Muhammad, Michael Sims, Juna, heavyweights. I don't think I have to give you guys a resume. We've all worked together at some point. So I know who you are, you know who I am. Akosua made surreptitious study of faces in the room. They were obviously Kojo fans. Now then, let me give you the briefest of explanations concerning the project. Thelma Nagata, the future office manager, pulled out a steno pad and ballpoint. Wow, is the lady efficient or not? 30 minutes later, he had presented the idea for his first film, giving them a slice of the second and the hint of a third. The floor was open. Kojo, you're talking about a film production company that will produce excellent film. You got that right, DJ, and with good fortune smiling on me, you'll be the cameraman of all of them. I like your idea of using sound effects rather than a lot of dialogue. That's never been done with black films. Sid, with all due respect, let me correct you. We're going to be making African-American films. That's a whole new ballgame, a real distinction in mind. That's one of the main reasons that's been done with us for a long time. We've had the wrong labels slapped on our goodies. Sounds like the music is going to be the most important element of film, the first one, which is why we have asked the inimitable Juna to do the score. Were you wondering why I was here, Jackie? Juna, I never wonder why you're anywhere you are, wherever that might be. Akosua slipped in suavely. Now, sisters. We can't have Jackie F. Muhammad, the top PR person around, and Juna, the top musician around, clawing each other to pieces, can we? There was a moment of silence while the people in the room looked at each of the antagonists with disapproving eyes. Now then, going right along, I'm going to assume from this point on that everyone here is going to become a card-carrying member of our production company. Akosua did a double take and smiled at Kojo's reaffirming wink. Our production company. Perfect. If we have anyone here who wants to opt out, Ed Burns, assistant director on 30 feature films, cleared his throat. I want to end definitely, but I think some serious questions need to be answered. Questions need to be answered. The first consideration is, of course, the dream. And you've done a hell of a job of laying that on us. It's called pitching, Ed. You know how it's done. Phillip Charles called up in the opposite side of the room. The group shared insider chuckles. Mm-hmm. Right now then, after the pitch, the dream, let's get to the most important question of all. Where's the money coming from to do Grandfather's Eyes? The alert level of the group shot up 90%. Every eye focused on Kojo. He took a subconsciously aggressive stance. Ed, as the politicians say, I'm glad you asked that question. Mm-hmm. The only answer I can give you is the honest one. I don't know. Akusua's jaw dropped with all of the other dismayed reactions in the room. Kojo rushed on to say, no, I can't tell you at this moment exactly where it's coming from, but I'm asking you to trust me, at least on a month-to-month basis. Mac Weaver here, Kojo. Let's say we all do trust you and everything, and we wind up with a fabulous film. How do you get it distributed? We'll have to cope with that before we get to it. I have a sneaking suspicion that we may have to deal with the usual suspects. Once again, they shared insider smiles. They knew who the usual suspects were. Question? Put your hand down, Thelma, and stop pretending you're in 5th grade. It was such a wonderful time in my life. Oh, well, do you have any fears that our production company will be called racist by the usual suspects because we have no whites in the company? I'll read you loud and clear. I've asked the people who are closest to me to participate in this venture. That's all. As we grow and find more like-minded individuals who are willing to go through what we know we're going to have to go through, we'll consider them for inclusion. You see, what I'm asking for is a very strong commitment from everyone here. And I wouldn't consider people who are not willing to take that extra step. I know that what I'm asking for will be a sacrifice for all of you, financially and emotionally, but I know we can pull it off. Kojo, what about office space, phones, all that madness? Jackie, by the end of next month, we will have offices in a fantastic Quonset hut-sized a Quonset hut-sized loft on Slauson and Stanford, a half block east of Main Street. Juna gasped out. That's in South Central Los Angeles. South Los Angeles. Kojo, not certain if a gasp of surprise indicated approval or disapproval, moved on. By the end of next month, once we've set up, we'll go into pre-production at the end of the following month of November. In other words, we'll be doing this on a month-to-month schedule. In December, we'll start getting into principal photography. I'm going to be asking you brothers and sisters to be doing a lot of stuff for free that the biggies would pay you big bucks for free at first, but I guarantee you, we will all profit in the end. There was a heavy moment of silence broken by Juna's raspy voice. We're getting ready to kick some ass around here. Mm. The room exploded with laughter. There was just something about the way she said it. Akosua studied, Kojo studied, they're married now, so they almost become interchangeable. Kojo studied Akusua's sleeping profile and smiled. Looks like I picked a winner. Laced his hands behind his head and stared up through his bedroom into the crescent moon and the sky bristling with stars. I must be out of my mind. How can I possibly do a month-to-month schedule? Maybe I should have given us more breathing space. Maybe. A small, clear voice whispered into his right ear. Don't worry. Everything will be cool.
Oh, my.
Everything will be cool. He jerked his head toward Akosua to see if she were talking in her sleep. She was silent, sound asleep. The weight of the mystery in his life suddenly overwhelmed Kojo. He began to pray silently. I beg my ancestors and I beg the Orisha, please don't let me go crazy. I beg my ancestors and I beg the Orisha, please don't let me panic. I beg my ancestors and I beg the Orisha. A calm settled on his head, made him release a dreamy smile. I have Thelma Nagata as my secretary office manager, D.J. Ross, cameraman, Phillip Charles, the man who lit the inside of a barrel using only the knothole, Sid Burns for sound, Ed Burns, assistant director, Mac Weaver, assistant director, Juna doing the score, Jackie F. Muhammad, PR genius, still photographer Michael Sims. Yeah, we'll need a full book of photographs for this one. And Akosua Ferguson Brown, my co-writer, co-producer, wife. He unlaced his hand from behind his head. What the hell am I feeling antsy about? I got a dynamite group ready and willing to get down with me, and I'll pick up more along the way. What am I tripping for? He folded his hands across his chest and settled to a dream-ridden sleep. William Holden, Faye Dunaway, Ned Beatty, Peter Finch, the other guy with the aggressive Robert Duvall jaw, Chayefsky, Network, Beatrice Strait as the wounded wife in Network. The opening scenes flickered in front of his closed eyelids. Peter Finch strolling around the file section with a glass of whiskey in hand as the credit rolled over the scene. Remember how that started? Network.
Mm-hmm.
Big time stuff. CBS, NBC, CNN. Folks who decide which news is the news. Peter Finch trips out. Here's God speaking to him, telling him that he should tell the truth. It's all mixed up with black militancy circa 1980, 1960. Odd and cold-blooded insights, not the world of dominated media, giant propaganda mills. The insight was hindsighted and foresighted. Kojo grumbled a bit in his sleep, reviewing the part of the black militants bargaining for a piece of the media pie while nourishing themselves on Colonel Sanders' chicken buckets. If it was true, I would have sacrificed that and focused on something else, but then I'm not a white boy. Selection, selection. That's the key to the whole business. Making a juxtaposition mean something. He saw himself at a large walnut-painted desk, a pile of fantastic photographs on one side, a pile of cards with words that focused on concept that was so profound that the cards quivered when he held them up. The cards quivered and almost jumped from his hand whenever he touched the cards. The right picture. It felt as though they wanted to mate. The right words, the right picture, selection. The dream stood him up on street corners of New York, uptown and downtown, staring at the ridiculous rushing of the people. Network took a hard look at manipulated behavior. We're number one! What does that mean? What does number two mean? Network. You have to take another look at that. Faye Dunaway, the media bitch. William Holden, the ethical one. Schumacher. How did he become so ethical, squirming around in a pile of shit that deep? Yeah, that's a serious flaw there. Here's this guy, what's his name? Schumacher, the head of the news division, who has been on the scene since day one, involved with the whole thing. How does he get to be so ethical? Kojo, please, dear. Whoever you're talking with, could you save it till in the morning? Oh, sorry. I guess I got a bit involved. He smiled at Akosua snuggling down into a pillow. Wonder how many of these conversations I had before you came. The Chans were gracious about his moving. Well, come on now, Kojo. We wouldn't expect for a man to live away from his wife. October 1st, Kojo was firmly installed, busy doing 10 things at one time. Kojo, what about this loft that you're supposed to be using as an office? It's a real deal. My friend John Otterbridge, is getting ready to move back to North Carolina for a while, and he's leasing it to me for a year with an option to buy. What will you use for money? Well, he's giving me the first 3 months free, and after that, $800 a month.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that's what I call a friend. Yeah, John is a gem, always has been. It was happening.
Mm-hmm.
Kojo, now you know if you talk to your granddad, it was bound to get back to the family. I think I may have something of interest for you if you need money. What was the question asked? If you know of somebody who would have some need for... Dad, please don't play with my head like that. If I need some money, well, think you might be able to break away for a meeting with 100 African-American men? 100 African-American men? Your group? Yeah, one of the organizations I joined not too long after we moved out here. How does Saturday morning about 10 a.m. suit you? 10 a.m. is fine. Good, I'll pick you up about 9:30. How's Akosua? Busy, Dad, busy. Sounds like you guys are onto something dynamite. Good, see you Saturday. Kojo gently dropped the phone back into the cradle. 100 African-American men. It was one of the few organizations that his father belonged to that he wasn't exactly enthusiastic about. They gave him the impression of being a collection of good time, high roller types with low aims, somewhat bougie. But I shouldn't jump to too many bad conclusions. After all, Dad's been in the group for ages, and I know he's about something. Kojo, you want to take a lunch break with me? They sat under a beach umbrella, a thrift shop item that Kojo had gotten for $10. Compadre, it said, and feasted on shrimp, salad, sandwiches, and chilled white wine. Mm-hmm. Sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I just got an interesting call from my dad. He invited me to a meeting of 100 African-American men on Saturday. What's the deal? I don't know yet. He's making little sounds about money, but I don't have the slightest idea where it would be coming from. Well, I don't want to throw any curves at your head or anything, but the sooner we get our hands on a lot, some of it, the better.
Mm-hmm.
Are we bankrupt already?
Mm-hmm.
No, sweetheart, far from it. Everything is cool on the home front, but I've been talking with Thelma about office equipment stuff, and she's been running some interesting figures at my head. The lady is an organizational genius. Yeah, she is something, ain't she? He noticed it as she wedged herself away from the table. Akosua was gaining weight. Akosua was gaining weight. Our clothes look like we should be going on a little diet, huh? She came to pose in front of him, a slight bay window blocking his view. You don't die the way babies, Kojo. You give birth to them. He pulled her down in his lap and smothered her face and neck with kisses. It was happening. 100 African-American men held their Saturday meetings at the Crenshaw Club. They wandered in from early golf dates, tennis matches, aerobics, workouts, jogging. Well, I gotta say this much, they're fitness conscious anyway. Mm-hmm. There was also a number of the 100 who gave some evidence of serious hangovers and Bloody Mary breakfasts. But in the main, he noted they were a fairly representative collection of middle-aged African-American men. Mm-hmm. He recognized a few of the more public figures, Assemblyman, what's his name, the middle echelon actors, 6 or 7 doctors, lawyers, teachers, upper-level civil servants, a stray airplane pilot or two, the owner of the best-stocked and most Afrocentric bookstore in Los Angeles County. Mm-hmm. Dad, are there really 100 men in this organization? More like 65. But someone thought it would sound better to say 100. Oh, I see, said the blind man. Mm-hmm. Enormous trays of scrambled eggs, sausage, bacon, toast, and huge carrots of orange juice were laid out on a buffet table. Breakfast is served, someone announced, and men made their way to the food, laughing and joking. Kojo felt trapped. Thought we were supposed to meet at 10 a.m. His father took note of him making a sly study of his watch and whispered, "Relax, Kojo. This is the way the brothers do it. We haven't seen each other since the last meeting." Breakfast finished, 11:30, he noted. It was time for the business of 100 African-American men. The minutes of the last meeting were read, an update made on the 15 college scholarships they were sponsoring. Kojo sat up a bit straighter. The medical bills that had been paid for a couple of men with financial problems. The situation with the orphanage they were sponsoring in Accra, Ghana. Their financial state of being was put into perspective by an astute accountant who made certain that everyone understood that it was his expertise that multiplied their funds threefold during the course of the past year. Kojo was fascinated by the casual manner the business was framed, yet how efficiently it was worked out. Brothers be a bit late, but they be taking care of business. He looked up to discover his father was speaking. "So rather than attempt to tell you what it's all about, I prefer to be given the story firsthand. May I present my son, Kojo Bediako Brown." He felt a little befuddled for a moment as the applause drove him to the lectern. What the hell can I say to these guys? It took him a few moments to unravel the tape to know where to start from the way he wanted to wind up. They weren't a difficult group to talk to. In some ways, it was like speaking to the 65 facets of his father. "I don't have a prepared speech because I didn't really expect to speak." "Speak your mind," someone called out from the back. He decided to go from his USC film school days, the frustration, the Eurocentric racism that was so deeply ingrained that the people who were guilty of it didn't even realize it. The support that his mother and father gave him, his family, coming out into a mean-ass world that wasn't any less racist than USC and owned up to it. The difficulties was trying to gain control of some percentage of the cinematic African-American image, what he wanted to do. His recent trips to Ghana and to Denmark, the honor that was paid him in Copenhagen. The story he wanted to tell in my grandfather's eyes, the problems he was facing, trying to take it up. After 20 minutes, he dried up. He'd gotten it off his chest, he'd spoken his mind. The applause startled him. What were they clapping for? The Saturday meeting of 100 African-American men was slowly melting. The business was just beginning. Father Brown came to steer him into a room where 5 of the 100 were waiting for him. "Kojo, this is our screening committee. This is Brother Franklin, Brother Castle, Brother Turner, Brother Settles, and Brother Dirksen, our accountant." He shook hands with the men and stood in place, feeling like a schoolboy in front of the class. "Have a seat, Kojo. Let's talk about what you need and what we want." He literally stumbled out of the room after intense 45 minutes of information exchange interrogation. They wanted him to do something quite simple. Give them a hard-based reason for granting him funds to get his show on the road. The exchange indicated how little they understood about the above-the-line, below-the-line costs, but they understood money. And what they were concerned about was whether or not they would receive a decent return on their investment within a reasonable period of time. Brother Dirksen asked the toughest questions and took the most notes. "Why do you want to make this film, Kojo? Why do you want to make films, period?" "Because I have to. Because our story needs to be told." He had doubts about whether or not he had come off as well as he wanted to. His father stroked him out as they settled into the car. "Kojo, it's okay. It's okay. I'm telling you, son, it's okay. These brothers have been waiting to jump into some media action for a long time, and you're the perfect scenario for them. Young, educated with the proper credentials, got a track record, traveled, been honored by a university in Europe, about to burn the world up, and you're my son to boot. What are you worried about?" They embraced and clapped each other on the back. "Okay, now then, enough of that. How about tripping over to that seaside place you like for a couple of tall ones? You can give me a closer look at what you're planning so I'll know how to lobby when the time comes." "Dad, you too much. You know that?" "Yeah, I do know." This is a family full of confident people.
Yes.
Of course, did you get the message from your publisher? He seemed to be excited about the outline, except whatever it was you sent him. Oh, God, got it. They really seem to be in love with me these days. What's happened with 100 men? The accountant called this morning and wanted to clarify what I'm in paragraph 6 on page 12. He's a serious little guy, that one. Dear Grace, I've been so busy doing so many things that I haven't had the time to reply. Write you. I've gotten married since last we met. I may as well be upfront about that. The basic reason why we got married is something I can be completely honest about. I needed to do it for ritualistic reasons. No, please don't laugh. Don't change the channel. I've known Akosua Ferguson, now Brown, plus Ferguson, for more than 2 years, and it was time for us to do something. I'm telling you this honestly, so please be prepared. My relationship with Asiafo, the man in the forest, was my catalyst for getting married. He was the one who said I had to do it if I wanted to get what I wanted. I could lay out all the rest of the stipulations, but it wouldn't serve any worthwhile function. Please understand that I will always love you in all the ways that we can love, and that I wish you the kind of happiness when your turn comes that I'm experiencing. I'm not married to the kind of woman who would become hysterical if I received an occasional note from Ghana, so don't hesitate if you feel the urge. Love, Kojo. P.S. Looks like there's a little Kojo or Akosua on the way about 6 months from now. The loft was open to them. John Otterbridge had done more, had gone to do more work down home. Kojo and Akosua strolled through the space. We could build sets in here, couldn't we? You know that? It looks like you could fly airplanes in here. This place is huge. You'd never have any idea that this was here, entering the ordinary sized front door. Bridge planned it that way. And check out the burglar proofing. All the grill work on these windows that look like works of art. Now all we have to do is bring in some state-of-the-art equipment and get busy. They separated, peeking into odd corners, discovering things. Kojo, I hear you, but where are you? Over here behind the big panel. What is this? It's a mini kitchen, that's what it is. It looks exactly like the kind of thing you want to use to prepare midnight snacks. Now I really begin to understand what he meant when he said, I'm not going to give you a guided tour. I'll let you discover the place for yourself. 6 anxiety-ridden days later, Kojo received a call from his mother. Kojo, your father decided to give me a chance to have some of the fun. What's up, Mom? It looks like you are, son. Looks like you are. I don't understand. I'm proud and happy to say that 100 African-American men have just granted you $1.5 million to do your thing. Kojo suddenly saw stars flashing through his head. Oh God, don't let me punk out here and faint. 1.5 mil? Is that what you said? Exactly. The information came straight from the accountant to your father. Congratulations, look like you're in business. You better believe it. Thanks, Mom. Talk to you later. Kojo offered a silent prayer of thanks and tried to pull off a nonchalant stroll to the kitchen. Kojo, you want to have a snack out back? I'm making fried eggplant with a little Parmesan. Yeah, that would be tasty, round about now. He had to force himself to handle the plates without rattling them, but at the same time he felt strangely calm, as though the news he had received was natural. There's some white wine in the fridge. Why don't you have some champagne? She stopped placing slices of eggplant in their plates to stare at him. Champagne? Yes, what better way to celebrate this $1.5 million grant I just got from the men? Kojo screamed and raced down the table to swing on his neck. Oh, Kojo, that's fantastic. That's wonderful. Yeah, we can have Thelma begin to set up the office now and open up a payroll. We're in business. The law made a unique business operation happen. There was privacy and openness. Thelma Nagata was in office heaven. My God in heaven, there's enough space in here to run a train. And within weeks, a creative train was running. pre-production was going on, Kojo assembled his staff. We're going to have to do this as well as it can be done the first time because we don't have the resources to do it again and again and again. You hear that, Vladimir? You hear that? Kojo and Akosua did locations after hours. We're looking for all the physical elements in our scripts. We'll have to depend on the people to take care of the emotional and spiritual. The phones are ringing. Kojo, line 4. Kojo Bediako. Hi, Kojo. Charlie Bascom here. So how's it going, pal? Charlie Bascom. The hyenas have sniffed the scent. Charlie Bascom, haven't talked to you for a while. Yeah, not since you turned down the golden chance to do the jazz series. You felt strong enough to wedge the blade in a bit. It wasn't a golden chance. Ah, come on, Kojo. That was just one thing on the road to many things. What's this art production company stuff? You didn't tell me you were going into business for yourself. You didn't ask, Charlie. You didn't ask. He could almost feel the neurotic anger come through the receiver. The man was not accustomed to having his psyche played with. So I'm asking, what's the deal? Kojo, well aware of how accurate and informative the Hollywood grapevine could be, decided to splash broad strokes in Charlie Bascom's ears. That sounds great, Kojo, really great. There's just one thing missing. How's your distribution set up? Charlie, we'll have to talk about that at a later date. Right now I'm late for 2 meetings. Yeah, sure, I understand. Looks like you're into something hot, guy. Why don't we get back at it at the beginning of the week? Yeah, sure, beginning of the week. Talk to you. Kojo hung up and smiled into Thelma Nagata's beaming face. You couldn't really call it revenge, but it sure felt good to give the moguls a taste of their own medicine. It wasn't happening. Our production company was a 24-hour-a-day operation. Members of the staff came and stayed to do the zillion things that were necessary to make a film happen. Mr. Harvey and Mrs. Minerva Ferguson came. We just happened to be in the neighborhood.
Yeah, right. Lost. Compass not working.
We just happened to be in the neighborhood.
All right.
Slauson. Akosua went to Kojo. Minerva Ferguson wouldn't be caught dead in this neighborhood. Just passing by. They gave him a tour of the facility. They were impressed. Harvey Ferguson wandered off by himself. Don't get lost, Harvey. I'll try not to, Minerva. Mrs. Ferguson frowned at his reply. The man was becoming a bit sarcastic in his old age. Kojo, Akosua, can we go to some private spot? They looked at each other. Private meant going 50 yards from the nearest phone. Sure, we can sit over here. Akosua had put her thrift shopping expertise to work and scrounged a dozen comfortable Danish chairs and 3 sofas. Kojo rushed to take a quick call and returned with pineapple juice. Sorry, I had to get that. Did I miss something? No, I waited for you. This is delicious. Thank you. They were in a flight pattern that Mrs. Ferguson knew nothing about. She made them feel antsy. They cloaked their impatience with frozen expressions. Phones were ringing, machines were clicking and clacking. Mrs. Ferguson was playing her scene. Akosua, you look perfectly adorable, pregnant, you know?
Okay.
Perfectly adorable. Mrs. Ferguson, this is like the middle of our workday. You wanted to... Yes, I wanted to know what kind of legal representation you have for your corporation. They exchanged dumb looks. Well, we know a guy. Just as I thought. I've spoken to my attorneys on your behalf, Green, Shafton, and Clark. Wow, they're pretty expensive. They would be if they weren't trying to earn brownie points for aiding and abetting a fledgling group of African-American filmmakers. Kojo stunned with a lip-smacking kiss on her cheek. Akosua pulled her mother up from the sofa and hugged her. Harvey Ferguson smiled at the warm tableau. Kojo, you need a 10-car parking lot out back. I think my firm can do it for you.
Mm-hmm.
It was Tuesday evening, one of those balmy Los Angeles November evenings that can only happen in Los Angeles, despite the earthquakes, the racial strife, and the smog. Akosua and Kojo had decided on a picnic in Griffith Park. They drove up past the golf course around the back side of the park to a section with only a few people. Kojo, you know something? Life is beginning to have an unreal, almost surreal quality about it with us. How so? How so? Well, look at what's happening. We have a fat bank account. All the people you wanted to bring in for your film have come, and more on the way. You're being granted a serious amount of respect for your creative effort. Things are rolling with our production company. I've just sold another book. We're in love. I'm pregnant. And I'm pregnant. He shared the feeling. It was almost unreal. The snags that occurred were minor and easily resolved. Every obstacle seemed to remain in place for only a few minutes before it was overcome. Asiafo. There was a large grain streak of doubt running parallel to an equally streaked grain of belief in the reason why it was all happening. Would the same thing be happening if I hadn't met Asiafo? Is he really the catalyst for all of this? There were moments during the day when he knew or felt that Akosua, the talented people around him, were glancing at him with admiration, and he wanted to say, don't admire me. This is the way it's supposed to be. This is what Asiafo said would happen. Everything is cool. Akosua, I know what you feel. Believe me, I do. Looks like we have this section of the park to ourselves. Good. Who else comes to picnic on Tuesday at 4:30 a.m.? 4:30 p.m.
Okay, there you go. Right.
They chose a spot under a large low-limbed tree, spread their blanket, and settled in. They were having catered goodies from the Nagasaki Cafe. Bento boxes of vinegared rice, sushi, sashimi, nori leaves filled with tempura shrimp, wasabi. I love the way Japanese design their food to be eaten. Don't they do that in Africa, in Ghana? Kojo frowned involuntarily. The truth was difficult to spit to swallow. Oh, I'm sure some effort is made privately, when people give dinners, but on the whole, my experience was not that great aesthetically. Fufu in a bowl, light soup they call it, with a piece of goat or fish slopped in it. The flavors can be interesting depending on who cooked, but I never really felt there was any effort to make food look pretty. The other thing that puzzled me was the use of palm oil and everything. It was kind of a drag because it got in the way of other flavors. You begin to ask yourself, what does fish really taste like without this palm oil-based sauce? Doesn't sound like you're such a great fan of Ghanaian cuisine. No, not really. Sorry, Grace. I'll never forget your banku and brown nut stew with fish. Oh, Kojo, we forgot the beer. I get it. He popped up from the blanket, nibbling a rice ball, and moved to the car, parked 100 yards away. What could taste better than a cold Korean right now? He pulled a six-pack of Korean from the cooler in the trunk of his car and began a long stroll back to the spot. The scene registered as a complete photo. A dirty, ragged man was standing at the edge of their blanket. He broke into a worried jog. What the hell is this? He came up behind the man, catching Akosua's eye. What does he want? Kojo circled the man carefully and almost sighed with relief. It was just one of those wild and crazy guys who were running around the world these days. Kojo stared into the man's dead eyes. He's gone. What is he? Black man, about 50, emaciated, gone. There were thousands of the same types all over Los Angeles, beneficiaries of the Reagan-Bush close-up the mental warehouse years. He was disturbed by the man's stance at the edge of their blanket. He wasn't armed, but he was obviously gone. Kojo decided to try the sweet approach. "What can we do for you, my brother?" The man's unfocused eyes stayed on a distant target as he made the hand-to-mouth gesture for food. Kojo felt a sudden rush of nervous perspiration pop out from under his armpits. He stared into the face of the man, trying to read something from the dead expression on his face. Nothing. Kojo closed his bento box and handed it to the man. Wait. Here's a beer." The man took the bottle of beer and dropped it into the rear pocket of his filthy, grease-stained clothes. He opened the box and, with an incredibly delicacy of finger play, dabbed a California roll into the wasabi and swallowed it without chewing. He ate another bit of food and turned away from them and began to walk in a serpentine fashion very quickly, as though he were late for an appointment. Akosua moved closer to Kojo and squeezed him in a big hug. "Kojo, I love you. Do you know that?" "I love you too," he whispered. He was perspiring heavily and his voice about felt constricted. That was one of the most unselfish things I've seen in a long time. You gave that man your dinner.
Feed a stranger.
Kojo felt himself coming back a little. The arch stroke was slowing down, the perspiration cooling. He had fed the stranger. Was it the right stranger?
Yes.
He had fed the stranger. Well, you know how it is. You have to go with the vibe sometimes. I always think when I see dudes like that, it's him today. It could be us tomorrow. There, but for the grace of God, go I. I heard that. Here, have some of my tempura. Invitations started pouring in, attention from the moguls. "Dan Dryson here. Say, what's the deal with you? I've called your office twice already." "Sorry, Dan, been meaning to get back to you. So what can I do for you?" "Bascom had the scent first, now they all have." "Good, let them pant for a while. They know the quality of my work and it'll bring them in." "Good. I'll get to them when I get to them." The call to be social was a bit more difficult to deal with. 100 African-American men sent a gold-embossed invitation to their winter ball. The men celebrate. And we stopped there at chapter 30.
Fantastic.
I've read 28 and 29.
Wow.
And that's what's happening. As you can see, it's building up into stuff.
So the man ate the California roll without swallowing it. He just put the whole thing in his mouth.
If you've ever eaten something dipped in wasabi, you'll know that it can make your nose bleed.
Yeah.
The Japanese, I don't know how they came about it.
But
remember we went to a shabby restaurant with Louis, and I didn't care that very much for the water-based food, but they had hot sauce, and as you know, I like a little hot pepper from time to time.
Right.
And the brother asked me, the waiter, 1 or 2 drops. 1 or 2 drops of what? Of hot sauce. Well, 2. And he dropped 2 drops of hot sauce on whatever it is that I was eating, and I almost couldn't finish it.
I know.
And I did finish because of pride. But I can tell you this. I will never forget.
You'll be a one-drop man from now on.
1 drop. If I could have asked for half a drop.
Half a drop.
I don't know. They've done some kind of, I don't know, it couldn't come from a pepper. Habanero peppers can be very, very hot. Scotch bonnet. This was something like,
I know.
I don't like an atom bomb. Maybe it was their payback for Hiroshima or something. In any case, that's where I am. That's where we are.
All right.
And,
so that was chapters 28 and 29
yes.
of The Snake 2020. And the book can be purchased on Author House, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, local bookstore. Just go in and say, I want The Snake 2020 by Odie Hawkins. Your website is www.odiehawkins.com. You're also on the Amazon authors page. One can Google Odie Hawkins and see many videos. And if you like this moment in time with Odie Hawkins and Zola Salena-Hawkins, please subscribe to our channel. And that's about it.
Okay, I'm going to say this. Come and go with me down to Cancun and we'll have a little Huachinango a la Vera Cruzana.
Ashe.